welcome to Push Your Luck video. My name is Eric, and today we'll be looking at Flow of History. Now this is a 2016 release by Moaideas Games or Moaideas Games. Alright, this is a Taiwanese publisher, and this is designed by Jesse Lee. This Flow of History plays 3 to 5 players and takes about 60 minutes or so to play the game. It is a quick, relatively easy to learn civilization game using only cards and some tokens as well to represent your own color, as well as resources that you can use to buy the cards with and stuff like that. So let's take a look at how the game plays and my thoughts about the game. So this is what you get in a box of the Flow of History. You'll first notice all these cards, alright? There are a lot of cards for the game. They are separated in different ages as well. And the cards have a very nice thick quality, but they kind of have a very smooth finish, so it ends up being very difficult to shuffle. I think if you do sleeve the cards, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. Each player will also have a token, a meeple, or a pawn for them to be place on the cards themselves during the game. Each player will also be receiving resources, so these are nice wooden tokens which are representing resources that you'll be used to purchase cards later on during the game. Lastly, each player will also have a very nice thick cardboard with pretty much the summary of all the rules and everything you need to know to play the game on these two sides of the cardboard. Now there's a lot of text, as you can see, but if you are listening to a person explaining the rules of the game while you're looking at this card, is definitely very helpful and will help to allow you to understand the game much more faster and then get into the game much more quicker than most other games. So this is quite well done board. Do not be daunted by the huge amount of words. It should be fine once you get 1 or 2 rounds in. And so that's all there is to the components for the game. It's all very good quality. Definitely nothing sloppy about the components of the game. So good job, Moaideas Games. So let's go to how to play the game. So the gameplay is pretty simple. All you are doing during your turn is just to do one of any of these 5 actions. So there are 5 actions: invest, complete, snipe, activate, and harvest. And then that's it. Next player will take his turn, and then next player will take his turn, and so on and so forth. And we keep doing this until the future card, this is the future card, is either revealed, played here, or bought by someone. Alright, then that will signify the end of the game. The game ends immediately, and then we'll count the points, cultural points, as well as other points that might be provided by other cards on the board, and then whoever has the most points will win. So these are the culture symbols. Alright, and in this game there's quite a lot of symbols, but they do explain what the symbols mean quite clearly in the text in the card. So not to worry if the symbols may appear too confusing right at the beginning, but later on, as the game, after you play 1 or 2 more rounds, it should come to you quite intuitively. So what are actions that you can do? First, invest. Now invest means that you're taking your player token and choose one of the cards that's available in the tableau. So in a 3 to 4 player game, there's always 5 cards available for you to choose from. In a 5 player game, there's 6 cards. So what you're doing, you're taking your pawn and putting it on a card where there isn't another player's pawn already on it. So you put up your pawn on it, on this card. Let's say you want this card, so you're investing in this card. Then you need to take some of your tokens and put them, resources, and put them onto the card as well. You must minimally put 1 resource on it. So I can put 2 here like that. So that is invest action. Next up is complete action. Complete means you are taking a card that you previously invested, and then you are getting it and putting it into your tableau, like so. Alright. Now when you do so, the tokens, the resources that you used to put on the card are now put into the supply. There are 2 different types of pools of resources. One is the reserve, which you put maybe somewhere else in a box, and then there's a supply, where a lot of the taking of resources and stuff like that will usually happen with the supply area. So you put the resources that you put on the card here and put it into the supply, and then you will take your pawn back and put a card into your tableau. Now almost all the cards will have this little symbol here, which means that this is an investment bonus. So if you previously if you completed a card where you invested on, look at your tableau for any cards that have this symbol or any of these symbols that are appearing on top of your tableau. Then you will get 1 resource token for each of these symbols that appear from the supply. And then you gain this card and you see what other effects. So the cards have different effects. Some cards will have instant effects. So if I take this card, I immediately get this. I'll take 1 resource token from the reserve to your nation for each harvest icon that I have. Right. Then there are other symbols, like for the attack one. Attack usually means that you will choose one other player to attack, and you'll be combining your attack symbol, which are the axes, against their attack and defense symbol. So in this case, you will see here, this is a defense symbol and this is a attack symbol. So whenever you're attacking someone else, it is always your attack, which is this symbol, against their combined attack and defense symbols. So make sure you have more than someone else before you choose an attack card. Right? An attack card usually will hamper them and make them slightly weaker than you. Sometimes it might even cause them to discard a card away. Then there are attack all symbol. There are attack all symbols, and so these are the attack symbols, and these attack all symbols. Right? And then some cards allow you to activate them at a later time. So for example, this symbol means that you can activate this card later on. If you are not sure what all the symbols means, don't worry. You can always look at the text and the card, and they will explain very clearly what they are supposed to do and when you can activate them, and so on and so forth. So I would say that the text of the actions are actually very, very clear, more so than most other games that you expect them to be clear about it. Next up is snipe. So what is sniping? So the tokens that have been placed by other people, where other cards have been invested by other people, you can now steal the card from them. So by sniping, to do so, you must make sure that you have enough resource tokens in your area to pay the opponent the card that you're sniping from. So let's say the opponent has placed 2 resource tokens here. You want to snipe this, you'll be paying the opponent these 2 resource tokens. These resource tokens are gone into the supply area, and then you return this investment token back to the player and you take this card. Not only do that opponent kind of lose this card, they also gain resource tokens as a result of being sniped. So they'll now check how many trade tokens that they have. These are trade tokens, that symbols that they have on their area, and they get that many resources from the supply. In addition, on top of that, they will check how many resource tokens that are left in the supply, and they take another half of it rounded down. Alright, so if you snipe someone, make sure it's really valuable to you, or it's really something that will set your opponent back a few spaces, because that opponent will now get quite a bit of resource tokens. In the earlier game, this will be very important, but in the later game stages, it's not too important for that. This also means that the first action that I was explaining earlier, invest, becomes a bit more important, because if you really want that card, you must make sure that you place enough resource tokens on the card so that no one else can snipe you. Or you could play it such that you make it attractive enough for someone else that they want to snipe you, and then you can gain that resource tokens for something else later on. So that's snipe. Next action is to activate. Now, as I mentioned earlier, some of the cards have activate icons, so you can see that this is an activate icon. So now, during your turn, instead of doing anything, instead of investing, completing, or snipe, you can also choose to activate a card, and then that will be your turn. Lastly is harvest. Now harvest is a way to get resource tokens if you're running out of resource tokens. So what you're doing is you count the number of harvest icons. So these are harvest icons. These are like the little plants thing. They kind of look like whale tails for us, but it's plants. Right? You take that many resources from the supply, from the reserve, and then add them to the supply. So this is how you can get resource tokens from the reserve into the supply. And then you count how many resource tokens there are in the supply, and you take half of them, rounded down. Right. You must make sure that you take. You must make sure that at the end of the harvest action, you have less than. You have number of resource tokens equal to the current age. So the ages range from 1 to 5. So at the very least, you will still, at the end of the action, have in your supply, in your area, in your play area, that number of resource tokens based on the age. Right, so it's not too bad, but it's usually quite an inefficient way of getting resource tokens. There are many other better ways of getting resource tokens, especially if you get engine running. Then after that, the market will be replenished, and then we'll check whether if there's any cards that's 2 ages older than the current age, then you also discard those cards as well. Now, when you take the cards, you will always be stacking cards of the same color together. So, for example, if I had this barracks card from an earlier play. Now I have this card. I want this card. I'll take this and put it on top. which means that it will cover off this icon as well as this ability. So this is a permanent ability whenever it's active on top. Alright, I'll be able to provide one defense icon, which is exactly what the symbol says. Now when I buy another orange card, I'll place it on top, covering the icon, the defense icon, but I'll still get the icon below, which is the attack icon. Now I have a new symbols that I can look at. So I have now a science icon and an industry icon, and I have another trade icon, and I still have my old attack icon. Right, so this is how the gameplay will work. There are three different types of cards. There are the normal cards that you have here, the color cards. There's monument cards. So monument cards usually give you certain special abilities, and there's unlimited of them, so you do not need to stack one on top of each other. Then there's leader cards. So leader cards are like leaders that will lead your nation. You can only have one of them. So every time you take a new leader, you must discard the leader away. And so at the end of the game, whoever has the most culture, so as I mentioned, these are culture symbols. Culture symbols, as well as there are some cards that will give you additional scoring. So if you look for these icons, you say like, in this case, this card, gain one culture icon for every 2 defense icons you have. So if I had this monument at the end of the game, I look at the top of my tableau to see how many defense icons I have, and for every 2 of them, I'll get 1 point essentially. Alright, and then that's how you play the game. So whoever has the most points at the end of the game will win the game. Pretty simple. So let's go to my thoughts about the game. So what I think of the flow of history, I think it's a very good game. It is civilization in a very small, compact form. There's only cards. There's not a huge map that you have to contend with. It feels like difference, not improvement, but like innovation version 2.0 or innovation version 3. So if you play innovation, you also have seen this format, this mechanisms of stacking the cards, and then different symbols that are visible on top, they'll give you different abilities. So it's very similar to that. So if you like innovation, you also will like the flow of history. For me, it is easier to explain than innovation. Sometimes innovation has a lot of this combinations and stuff like that makes it a bit complicated. But in this case, it is quite straightforward how to play the game. I also like the investment mechanism. None of the mechanisms you see in this game is very new or very innovative. It's the way that he put them together, alright, that makes it fun, that makes the game fun, that works. That the game is interesting and fun to play at. I would say it's light to medium weight. It's not too difficult, and it definitely pays if you have played it once before, so you kind of know what cards to expect coming out later on in the later ages, so you can prepare for them. Definitely on your first playthrough, treat it as a learning experience. Do not dwell too much on if you're not winning, because you can then play it again. It's pretty fast, like 45 to 60 minutes. You can play it again, and then you can do better next time. Definitely knowing when to snipe your opponents, having a bit of defense, that makes it that much more interesting and much more interactive with other players. There's definitely high player interaction amongst the players, because you can snipe them, you can steal the card from them. You're also comparing attack and defense icons most of the time, because I think maybe 1/5 of the card or 1/4 of the cards have attack, and that's quite important because some of the later ages, the attack cards are very, very powerful. They can destroy monuments, they can just remove 2 cards away from your opponent, so you definitely do not want to neglect the attack. But unlike a game like Seven Wonders, where during this, you can go by the military route, you can go by the science route, you can go by the blue buildings route. Right? In this case, you kind of want to have a bit of your diversify investment, so you cannot just focus on one, because there's not enough cards actually for you to just focus on one. You could, for example, build a military power and then get other cards that support that, but more often than not, you should at least have at least 2 different symbols that you are trying to maximize on, because then later on they will help you to play the game better and score more points. So for me, the Flow of History is a recommended. I definitely recommend it. It's definitely a game that you should try to check out and buy. Thank you so much to Moaideas Games for this review copy, and thank you so much for watching. Say bye, comment. Bye.